was always the Jags.
It's always the Jags. It's always the Jags. It's always the Jags.
Always the Jags.
Welcome into Always the Jags. I apologize. I've got to be better about this. Whenever the Jaguars go through a hard loss, sometimes I just completely shut out and shut down and I don't record. And I can't do that. If I want to keep doing this and I want to keep, covering the Jaguars and stuff like that, got to cover every game, even if it's not good. So I'm going to cover the Bears game. This will be coming out, of course, after most Jags fans have already seen both of our London games. I'm still going to do them separately. We'll start with the Bears game. Obviously, it sucked. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Everything was bad. Well, it's like, yeah, no, and the sad part is like, again, we controlled the game. We controlled it for about the first quarter. And in the second quarter, things started falling apart. But it wasn't terrible because we had deferred. So we got the kickoff to start the second half. And Trevor hit a nice big play to Evan Ingram. And it seemed like we were rolling. I think at half, the score was only 14-3. So, if we go up and put 7 on the board, it looks great. Now the game is 10-14, right? And so that was the swing play, to me. That was the swing play. Honestly, the swing play was Gabe Davis dropping that touchdown. Like, for all of the controversy from last week from Gabe Davis being annoyed that Trevor missed him on a wide open third down, and Trevor did miss him, and for Gabe Davis to go off on him, he is the wrong person to be talking right now. Because if we go up 7-zip on our opening drive, changes the entire complexity of the game. Changes it now the Bears are chasing points. Now they feel like they got to answer with a touchdown. And the defense doesn't feel like they got to win. Because whenever your defense like holds someone to a field goal, for them that's a win, as long as it's not like a crucial situation, as long as it's not the game-winning field goal. If your defense holds a team to a field goal, you always feel good about that. Especially if they get all the way to the red zone. Now it's a little bit different because either way, if you hold them to a field goal, like they don't get past the 40 and they got to settle for a field goal, you feel great about that. They didn't get in the end zone. And you'll get a kickoff and maybe you'll be able to turn over on downs if the field goal doesn't make it. Or if they're in the red zone and we don't get a field goal, or if we get down to the red zone, first, second, third, and goal, and we don't get a touchdown, well, now the defense is like, great, we kept them out of the end zone. Because once you get down to the goal line, they're going to score. Once you get down to like that red zone situation, it's pretty much a given they're going to score points. So now the defense is just thinking, okay, how do we not let them score 7? Let's just hold them to 3. So that changed the whole complexity. And Gabe Davis has been, when the signing was done, like, I didn't think he was going to light up the stat sheet, right? I thought he was just going to I thought it was a little rich of a contract, but I didn't think it was a bad signing. People thought he was replacing Calvin Ridley. I knew he wasn't going to replace Calvin Ridley. But I did think that he was going to provide some stability that would allow Brian Thomas Jr. to come into our offense without having to be the guy from day one and kind of work his way in, and that Gabe Davis would give us some big-bodied opportunities. No, he has not done that. I thought it would be better for Gabe Davis too because, in Buffalo, when he was treated as a third wide receiver, I think he was at his best. And when he was treated as a second wide receiver, that's when he started disappearing because when you're the second wide receiver, you have better cornerbacks that are on you. But now Jacksonville, he just hasn't been reliable. That's the thing. Like, even if he's not open, it's different if like your receiver isn't getting open and they're disappearing for games. But Gabe Davis just hasn't been reliable. He dropped balls in the last game, and he dropped touchdowns in this game. And once Gabe Davis dropped that touchdown, everybody started dropping touchdowns. It was ridiculous. And, it's the Bears team is up and coming, right? But it's like, that's what makes the closeness of those games so frustrating because the Bears is a game I think we should have won, but based upon how the game goes, there's not really one play you can point to where you could say that, we could have won if this happened. You know what I mean? Like there was The pivotal plays was Gabe Davis dropping that touchdown because that set the tone that the Bears already, were doing well. Because we probably controlled the game up until that point, up until Gabe Davis dropped the touchdown, because we had stopped them, remember? We stopped them. And if we go down and score a touchdown, now we have a clear advantage because we get the ball at the half. But then the Bears responded with the touchdown. So, I mean, classic touchdowns beat field goals. But that play and then the Evan Ingram fumble. And Evan Ingram came back and he looked great. It's disappointing that he ended up fumbling because that probably is what put the game out of reach for us. Had Evan Ingram made that catch, even if we went down and got three, maybe, I still think I think in order to stay in it, we would have needed a touchdown. We would need it to be 14-10. That way, if the Bears went down and got a touchdown, just to give our offense more time on the field, give our defense the time to really relax. And maybe if our defense held the Bears to three, now the score would have been 17-23. If we had went and got a touchdown after that, instead of that Evan Ingram fumble. No, the score would have been 17-10. I apologize. It would have been set if we went down and scored instead of Evan Ingram fumbling, and then maybe our defense held the Bears to a field goal. Now the score is 17-10. We would have been right in it. But in that one sequence of events, fumble happens, Bears go down, score, and now it's 21-3. Trevor Lawerence gets the ball back, and he's down 18 points. There's three scores. Of course he's going to start pressing. It's in a terrible situation. So that's, those plays, those are the difference. That's what turns a game from a close, hard fought game to a blowout, and that was the difference right there. Now, I don't know if we would have won that game because, again, the Bears were still leading. So it's not to say like that would have been the play that would have won us the game, but it would have been back and forth. You know what I mean? Like we would have been able to keep going because now once you're down 18 in the third quarter, it's a huge disadvantage, huge disadvantage. So that fumble ended up being pivotal. And the fact that our defense couldn't stop them at all, of course, is another big issue. Um, you know, when we look at our defense, I don't know if all the Jaguars fans need to write to Ryan Nielsen, and I will compare this in the Patriots game. The substitutions are driving us crazy. And I would argue that's why we got so many penalties for 12 men on the field, because Ryan Nielsen keeps subbing out players, like as Pete Prisco says, like we're a hockey team. And, people do it in the NFL. They rotate their defensive players. Right. Get it. Teams in the NFL that do that, they do that with their good defensive players. Like we rotated our defensive line back in 2017 because we had good defensive linemen. Like we had Calais Campbell and Unique Ngakoue, and then we will rotate out Malik Jackson and Marcel Darius because we had other good guys that could come in and play. He's putting in backups. Like our if that's the defense he wanted to run, our defensive line depth was not good enough for that. We would have needed to sign two guys like our Eric Armstead, or it would have needed to draft, or Mason Smith should be playing, And he's been in an active scratch for I think this is the third game going on in a row. So I understand that's what you want to do, Ryan Nielsen. Don't get me wrong, but Trent Baalke didn't give you the pieces to do that. Tyler Lacey is not good enough to be on the field right now. Neither is Yasir Abdullah. A gassed Trayvon Walker is still better than Yasir Abdullah. A tired Josh Allen is still better than Yasir Abdullah. A tired Eric Armstead. And Eric Armstead that wants to play three technique, that wants to play on big end, is still better than Yasir Abdullah. And if Eric Armstead wants to play three technique and you move him to end, letting Trayvon Walker rush from three, that's fine. Let Trayvon Walker rush from three technique. You want to know why? Because Trayvon Walker rushing from three technique is still better than Tyler Lacey or Yasir Abdullah or any of the other guys that you have in there. Like, players should not be coming off the field unless they say, hey, I need to come off the field. I'm too tired. Like, it doesn't make sense. And we're watching these games and we're seeing us losing because in critical moments, the offense is able to pick up that third down or we're not getting pressure. And it's like, it's hard not to blame that as a part of it. There's other reasons for why we've been losing and having a terrible season. But you mean to tell me that if every play we made sure, at least if Eric Armstead played at least 2 downs every, series of 3 downs, if Eric Armstead played 2 downs every single time, and we always had Josh Walker, Josh Allen, Josh Hines Allen, and Trayvon Walker on the field, and we always had Foye in the game, and we always had Devin Lloyd, or it'll probably be Ventrell Miller once Lloyd gets back, and once Foye Lucan gets back. If we had them on the field for every play, you're telling me that we wouldn't see more pressures. We wouldn't be seeing more sacks. We wouldn't be seeing more mistakes. We wouldn't seeing a better defense. This is the part that's driving me crazy because he's making our team worse with these decisions. And if no matter what happens this season, I don't care if we turn it around and make the playoffs. If I'm Doug, you don't have to be an offensive mind to step in and be like, Ryan, we need our best players on the field. If you don't do that, we're going to fire you and get somebody else. Because the best defensive coordinators don't do that. Or if they are doing that, it's because they have the personnel to do that. Like the Giants, they have the personnel to do that because Azeez Ojulari, Brian Burns, and Kayvon Thibodeau and Dexter Lawrence, they all form a really good defensive line. They can swap in and out. Those 3 guys are good edge rushers. If you want to do that, we should have drafted more edge rushers. We don't have the pieces in place to be doing this. And Armstead is not that good from end, but I'm okay with letting him play it every once in a while. To me, it's like Armstead, if you want to play end, you can play it on 3rd downs when you're supposed to be off the field. It's up to you. Or you can play it on 1st down or whatever you want to do, but you have to play 2 downs every series from the 3 technique. That would be my requirement because that's what we signed you to do. We pay you $17 million to do that. And we're not winning games because our defensive line are not in the right spots. All these penalties for 12 men on the field, and we're just not getting home. And then when we see the big plays happen, when was the last time we all saw Tyler Lacy break through and get a sack? And it was like, whoa, look at that play. When did we see Yasir Abdullah cause a strip sack fumble? Every single big play our defense has had, has come from our star players. That's why they're called star players. So I don't know what we do, but I swear if we lose one more game and I see Yasir Abdullah and Tyler Lacy out there on a 3rd down, I'm going to throw my remote control into the TV because you're just giving the game away at that point. You're literally like, I'm just not going to use my best weapons here. That's not how, like in football, some players are better than others. It's not the same as swapping them in and out. It's not like this is not a puzzle piece where you could just fit something in. Players are better than the others. If you put in your best players, you will get the best results. Even if those players, and again, our depth is so bad that when our good players are tired, they're still better than our other players at their best. Do I hope those guys develop and get better? Absolutely. But I do not want them to do it on 3rd down, on 3rd and 9, when we need to get off the field so our offense can go in there and win the game. That is not the time to find out, oh, has Tyler Lacy learned how to do a swim move? Or has Yasir Abdullah finally got his power rush down? That's not the time to figure that out. And it's very, very frustrating as Jaguars fans because we're not getting paid millions of dollars to do this. And we look and we see an obvious flaw in the field that's been repeated for the past few weeks. I'm not going to say that's why we lost the game against the Bears, but that long drive where we had all those substitution penalties and kept their drive going, not to mention some of the offseason signings. The only one that's really worked out, well, Armstead works out if he just plays his position. And I love his podcast. I think he's a great guy. Play 3 technique, please. You want us to win, right? Play 3 to every time Eric Armstead has had a big play or a game-changing play, gets a sack, gets a pressure in their face, it's from the 3 technique. It's just one of those things you just have to accept that you're better at. Like, hate to say it that bluntly, but it's true. Like, I mean, I'm sure people want to play. I'm sure you want to play three techniques. Sure, you want to play that position. Go get some guys together and do it on a Saturday or do it in practice. Get your heart out there. But until it's helping us win games, we can't do it. It's just that simple, and we're not winning games. So I guess that's all I have to say for the Bears versus the Jaguars. I picked this to be a win. Um, and the sad part is like again, you change a couple of things. First of all, if we come into this game, even if we lose that blowout to Buffalo, which if we win our first two games, I don't even think we get blown out by Buffalo. But let's just pretend that we do. We come into this game 3-1. I doubt we even lose. And even if we do, we come out 3-2. We're disappointed. The whole season is still ahead of us. And now it feels like it kind of feels like the season's over, honestly. Not even 3-2. No, I'm wrong. Because there was if we had beat Miami, Cleveland, and Houston, that would have been 3 wins, and then the Colts. So we would have come out 4-2. 4-2 with the Patriots on deck, right? And so, we already know that we end up beating the Patriots. So we'd be 5-2 right now. 5-2. We could lose our next four games and still be 5-6 before the bye and still hit a nice run to the end of the season. Now, if we don't win the Packers game, it's going to be time for Trent Baalke to start looking at, okay, can I sell any assets and get ready for the future? That's where we're at. That's where we're at. If we don't beat the Packers, that's what we're going to be doing. So, and I'm trying not to get too far ahead because again, I know this came out much, much later. But we'll talk about the Patriots next week. I mean, the next episode. Let me know what you think. Do you see all the substitutions? Am I crazy? Am I losing my mind? Honestly, like Pete Prisco, please go be our defensive coordinator, GM. Just go in and tell him to stop, or he's gonna lose his job. And like, I don't know if Ryan Nielsen did that with the Saints, but again, the Saints had a stronger defensive line. They had guys like Shelby Harris. They had guys like Cam Jordan, first round pick. I can't think of his name. Marcus Davenport. I think he was there when he was doing that. Think, I don't know if Trey Hendrickson was still there. I think he had already been signed. But point is, he had the depth to do that. He does not have it in Jacksonville. Until I see Tyler Lacey, Yasir Abdullah, the only time I see them on the field is after a 3rd and long has been converted and the camera pans to show who was on our field. And all we do is see them either getting blown off of blocks or they're just not making it to the passer. Please stop for the sake of our team. Please. Anyway, trying to end this on a positive note. I think Trevor is still, I mean, I feel like after the Bears game, we all know Trevor's not the problem. The offense is starting to look a lot better. And if the offense continues to look better, I'd be willing to maybe like, I don't know, forgive Press or allow Press to keep going. I think it's still ridiculous that the offense has taken this long to click and too little too late. Again, if we can't turn it into a win versus the Packers, it's going to be too late. But just play your best players. Like and offensively, it's completely different when we're talking about like what play I'm running because you still put in the best players for that specific play. Like if you're running a two tight end set where you need to block, okay, well, you're not going to put Brian Thomas Jr. in at tight end because, he's not your best blocking tight end. You might even take Evan Ingram off the field, put in Luke Farrell and Brenton Strange because they're your best blocking tight ends. Or if you want the offense to be, or if you want the defense to be confused and think you're going to play, think you're going to throw, you put Evan Ingram in and let him block, even though he's not as good. But that way it may confuse them, and maybe the linebacker isn't sure if this is going to be a pass or a block, or maybe Evan Ingram can leak out. That's a substitution that makes sense. But taking out Eric Armstead and putting in Tyler Lacey is just giving when Armstead's not in pain or hurting or dying or gasping for breath, it's just giving an advantage to that right guard. Because now he's like, oh, instead of facing, one of the best defensive linemen, I'm facing a backup. Cool. there's a reason why offensive linemen don't rotate in and out. And it's just it's maddening. That's all I can really say. It's maddening. So always remember, it was always the Jags. We'll talk about the Patriots, and yeah, we'll get going on that. So thank you guys for joining and for listening, and until next time.